Welcome to a presentation, this time on the topic of the Bible and the science of genetics and epigenetics. On the screen we have a quotation attributed to Gregor Mendel. Quote, "When two plants constantly different in one or several traits are crossed, the traits they have in common are transmitted unchanged to the hybrids and their progeny, as numerous experiments have proven. A pair of differing traits, on the other hand, are united in the hybrid to form a new trait, which usually is subject to changes in the hybrid's progeny." A lot of words here. Let's unpick it by first of all looking at Mr. Mendel himself. Gregor Mendel, botanist, teacher and Augustinian prelate, the first person to lay the mathematical foundation of the science of genetics in what came to be called Mendelism. Recognized by the local priest, he excelled in physics and mathematics. He went to the Altbrunn monastery as a novitiate, a novice, Augustinian order, which is a Roman Catholic order. As a priest, working under Austrian physicist Christian Doppler, who gave name to the Doppler effect, the sound waves going past you, changing in pitch like a car going as it goes by. Then it comes down here to supporter of the developmentalist, which is a pre-Darwinian view of the evolution of life. And it made him, apparently, Unger's writings made him a target for attack by the Roman Catholic press of Vienna. Basic science, biology, chemistry and physics, and part of this is genetic inheritance. And here we have the exam board called Edexcel, and they tell you how to construct Punnett squares. And they talk about it in the 19th century, Gregor Mendel. Anyway, so we have this set up, the first cross by Mendel. So you had two parents, FF. So you've got two alleles here. And one, the capital F, is the dominant allele. Parent 1 contains both. Parent 2 contains two lowercase f's, and these are the recessive. So the dominant will always win. And the recessive, unless you get two together, will always lose. So you have always possibilities. So you have the capital F plus a small f, red flowers. Capital F plus a small f, red flowers all the way across. And the FF, the lowercase ff, is a white flower. So you can cross a red flower with a white flower and end up getting four red flowers. So capital F, lowercase f, and they carry the recessive. But all these offspring, the first generation offspring, contain the recessive allele, the lowercase f, for white flowers. The second generation, now things start getting interesting. When you cross these two together, you have one with a dominant allele, capital F, and with a recessive allele, lowercase f. Then when you start combining these, capital F plus capital F, red flower, capital F plus lowercase f, red flowers again, still carrying the recessive allele for a white flower, but now you've got lowercase f plus lowercase f. So from the second generation, you've got a 25% chance of getting a white flower. Start with the first generation, you have one pure red flower and one pure white flower. You cross them and you've got a 100% chance of getting red flowers. But then the second generation with those red flowers, you then cross them, breed them, and you end up getting a 25% chance of getting a white flower. It's like it's skipped a generation. Here's an example by Edexcel saying coat type in dogs is determined by a single gene with two alleles. The straight coat allele is dominant D, capital D, and the curly coat allele is recessive, lowercase d. And then this is a Punnett square, where you have, instead of doing a cross diagram, Mendel cross diagram, you have it as a square. D plus D, capital D becomes two capitals D. Then you have capital D plus lowercase d, and then lowercase d plus capital D, which is DD. But then you have the lowercase d plus a lowercase d gets lowercase dd. And here they say calculate the probability that an offspring will have a combination capital D, which is dominant, and of course that's 25%. And I put a red square around the lowercase d, that is going to be recessive. Therefore you've got a 25% chance of getting a curly coat dog out of two dogs that have the dominant allele of a straight coat. Now we're going to hear Genesis chapter 30 verses 25 to 43.
And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, Send me away, that I may go unto mine own place, and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go. For thou knowest my service which I have done thee. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry. For I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. And he said, Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude. And the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming. And now, when shall I provide for mine own house also? And he said, What shall I give thee? And Jacob said, Thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. And of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, Behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day the he-goats that were ring-straked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar, and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and pilled white strakes in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had pilled before the flocks in the gutters and the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle ring-straked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the ring-straked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not unto Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and menservants, and camels, and asses.
Now, admittedly, this is not an easy passage to understand, where I've highlighted it in yellow. There's a competition of a kind between Laban and Jacob. Now, what is really interesting here in this red box that I have highlighted, he took external stimuli to change the outcome. This is epigenetics. So it starts off with genetics. We're looking at their characteristics: striped, speckled and spotted, ring-straked, etc., and white and brown. And then it goes into epigenetics, where you've got an external stimulus, that's additional change to the outcome. A great source here was Jacob's sheep genetics and epigenetics in the Torah. Of course, the Torah is the law, the 5 books of Moses: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. By this point, Jacob knew not to trust the sly Laban, and asked simply for ownership of all the speckled and spotted sheep. Since these imperfect looking sheep were few in number, Laban readily agreed. It appears that both Laban and Jacob were well aware of the basic principles of genetics. Today we know that sheep have 17 or so different colour alleles, and white colour is the dominant one. The same is true for Jacob's sheep. While the alleles for speckled and spotted sheep are recessive, the dominant white allele can be suppressed, resulting in more speckled and spotted sheep. In the Torah, we read how Jacob took tree branches and stripped away some of their bark to expose the inner white layers, so that their pattern resembled that of the speckled and spotted sheep. He then placed these branches in front of the white sheep that were mating, and this resulted in the white sheep producing more speckled and spotted offspring, leaving Laban in utter surprise. So I think Laban assumed, the top Punnett square, that 25% of the offspring of these sheep would be brown sheep, ring-straked, speckled and spotted, because they have the combination only of the 2 B's, lowercase b's, which means that's the recessive allele. 3/4 of the sheep of the offspring would be white sheep, because 1/4 would have both dominant alleles, and the other half, or 2/4, would have capital A and lowercase b, which means they would carry the recessive allele but still be white sheep. What I think probably happened with the Jacob's final outcome, the second Punnett square, is instead of 25%, I think he ended up with 2/3 or 67% for him. Only a third went to Laban and 2/3 went to Jacob, based on what I would say possibly a dominant epigenetic, and that is placing in front of these sheep rods with white streaks which overrode the dominant allele of white sheep. So instead of having 2 alleles now, we've got 3. So male sheep has capital A, a dominant allele, lowercase b, a recessive allele, and capital C, which is a dominant epigenetic, and the female the same, and you'll see the combination, you end up with getting capital AC, lowercase b b, B and a C, A and a C, C and a B, and C C. So you have this outcome of, instead of just 1/4, he ended up getting 2/3. That's why he was probably shocked. What does the CDC, that world famous, highly trustworthy 3-letter agency, have to say? Epigenetics, health and disease. So they come up and say, epigenetics refers to the way your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. Epigenetics turns genes on and off. This is an interesting article back in 2016. Biblical sheep in Israel for the first time in millennia. 119 Jacob sheep. 119. Why did they choose 119? Because 1 + 1 + 9, 9, 11 backwards, or 11 is judgment, or the Antichrist number. 3 years of high level, again 3 years. Why 3 years, not 2? And then November 30th, of course, November is the 11th month, 11:30. Look at the number of horns. They can have 2 horns. Jacob sheep normally have 4 to 6 horns. Isn't that interesting? There's a Jacob Sheep Society, and they talk about breeding these sheep. All animals intended for breeding should be of good size, alert, deep bodied, with a white fleece. There we go, white, with well-defined black patches. Oh, it's got white and black. The legs should be preferably be white with little or no black. And in conclusion, is the science of genetics and epigenetics in the Bible? I think I've given a strong case in Genesis, in the Torah, of a practical application between Jacob and Laban, how they bred sheep, and one using even greater knowledge, and that is Jacob, how the environment can affect the outcome of the mating here. So it's astonishing. Interestingly enough, there are only 2 occasions where the word science is mentioned in the Bible. 1 Timothy, oppositions of science falsely so called, and here we have Daniel chapter 1 and verse 4, and the word of God says, children in whom was no blemish, but well favoured and skillful in all wisdom and cunning in knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. Here are the references always, and we'll finish off with, we need to hear the gospel, singular, there's only one, every day, because we forget it, singular, there's only one, every day. Thank you for watching. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Moreover, brethren, I declare unto you the gospel which I preached unto you, which also ye have received, and wherein ye stand, by which also ye are saved, if ye keep in memory what I preached unto you, unless ye have believed in vain. For I delivered unto you, first of all, that which I also received, how that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the 3rd day according to the Scriptures,